Welcome to Sportsbet with me, Paul Alster. Looking forward to Saturday, the 8th of March, the final selections I'm offering you before we start getting stuck into next week's Cheltenham Festival. And here at Sportsbet, I'm happy to say I'm going to be offering at least two selections each and every day across the 4 days of the Cheltenham Festival, absolutely free of charge. So plenty to look forward to. Next week, it's going to be a real rollicking 4 days of ups and downs, a roller coaster ride. And I think day one of the Cheltenham Festival is going to be make or break for the bookies, really, because a potential 4 odds-on favourites. And depending on how those go will depend on how the markets, I think, are going to shape up and how much the bookies have got to play with to some extent. They'll be very keen to get your money one way or the other, that's for sure. If you're new to the service, just press the subscribe button below this screen and join over 8,000 others who have subscribed for free, and you'll get all my free selections offered. Should you wish to consider them. If you're interested in more than just one or two selections for the big race days and all the festival meetings, and indeed through the week when there's interesting racing, do consider joining Out in Front, where you can find a link in the description box just below this screen, because I have comprehensive coverage of all the big meetings and at weekend racing in particular. And of course, coming up to Cheltenham, I'm going to have probably 5 selections each day. And I'll be looking for big priced horses. I'm sure many of you know that I've got a tremendous record at Cheltenham with, in recent years, that 80-1 winner, Jeff Kidder in the Boodles. I had one recommended at 66-1 in the County Hurdle. Favour not so very long ago, 28-1 winners as well as plenty of double figure winners and lots of big priced placed horses, big prize placed horses, meaning that over the 4 years that I've been offering selections at Sportsbet and Out in Front, both services to level stakes are offering very big, delivering very, very big profits. So if you want to be part of that, you can do so very simply by signing up without any ongoing commitment at Out in Front at the link just below this screen. Last weekend, there was just the one selection, Can Do Kid, down at Newbury. He didn't run his race. And only afterwards, Paul Nicholls pointed out that he wasn't really looking for the horse to not overexert himself, but not to be knocked about, because, of course, as we knew, he's going for the Grand National, but he really didn't run the kind of race that I think we deserve to see him run there. Anyway, that's the way it goes. My two for you this Saturday begin at Sandown in the 225. The Betfair Imperial Cup Handicap Hurdle, set to be run on good to soft ground, 17 runners, always a hot race. And of course, that extra spice with the £100,000 bonus being put up to any horse that can win the Imperial Cup Saturday and go on and win a race at Cheltenham next week. It has been done before. Martin Pipe was a past master at doing that, but it's very, very difficult indeed to do. But for 100,000 sobs, it's definitely worth a chance if a horse comes out of the race and is still ready to go next week as well. Well, the early market suggests that in one of the most open renewals in recent times, 7-1 the field or thereabouts, Beau Zenith for Nicky Henderson could be the marginal favourite. Last season, he was a short-head second in a Grade 1 novice hurdle at Aintree Festival, and he looks attractively handicapped off 137. He's had only 2 runs this term, so lightly raced and shaped promisingly when fifth to Alter Benny in a good event at Ascot 7 weeks ago over 2 miles 3 furlongs, so has solid claims. Whether or not the drop back in trip will suit is debatable, although of course the stiff uphill finish over 2 miles at Sandown kind of counteracts that. Vying for favouritism is last year's winner of the Imperial Cup, Go Dante, trained by Ollie Murphy. £2 lower than his narrow triumph 12 months ago, but that came on very soft ground. And to be honest, Go Dante hasn't been in great form so far this term, but he did hint that he might just be on the way back when he ran a somewhat better race at Newbury last month in the William Hill Hurdle. But he might want softer ground to be at his best, a comment that also applies to last year's fifth in this race, Knickerbocker Glory, trained by Dan Skelton, who is a previous course and distance winner, and on his reappearance, in fact, in December. And he was also a very good third in a valuable event at Windsor last time. But Knickerbocker Glory, a horse who seems to invariably run his better races when there's a lot of juice in the ground, which there's not likely to be at Sandown Saturday. Paul Nicholls runs Affodil and Sorcerer, and the former being another who seems to be coming to the boil, having been second in the Scottish County Hurdle at Musselburgh last time. He'll definitely appreciate the better ground, while Sorcerer has been progressing at a slightly lower level, but has been thoroughly consistent. And for me, it's interesting that the stable jockey for Paul Nicholls, Harry Cobden, is actually riding Sorcerer and not Affodil, who's a much shorter price. So a bit of food for thought there. Willie Mullins, of course, is going to be the man, one way or another, with all the headlines at Cheltenham next week. How many winners is he going to have? I mean, he could easily have 3 or 4 on the opening day. But of course, as we know in racing, it doesn't always go to plan. And while he has plenty of hot favourites, the history is littered with lots of hot favourites turning up at Cheltenham and not going home winners. So Willie Mullins set to have a great week, I'm sure, in compared to most trainers, but quite how many winners he will have remains to be seen. He's got Batman Girac, his only runner in this race, and he'll be hoping for better luck with this horse than he had when it fell at the last, when still in with a bit of a chance in about 3rd or 4th place in a valuable listed handicap hurdle at the Dublin Racing Festival last month. Spirits Bay is interesting for Nigel Twiston Davies. This horse ran very well, but possibly flattered, well, certainly flattered, to get as close to Constitution Hill as he did in the Grade 2 International Hurdle. Constitution Hill could have won by a great deal further, and it was a muddling sort of a pace. So coming back to handicap hurdles, though, and not graded company, he's entitled to go very well indeed. His unexposed stable companion is Big Ginge, who runs in a handicap for the first time and is one to note, especially if there's any market move. Now, Lump Sum is a horse that I love. He's trained by Sam Thomas. He ran a cracking race for my followers at Out in Front at 22-1 when he was second in the William Hill Hurdle at Newbury, behind Joyeuse, who was a blot on the handicap as it turned out, Nicky Henderson's mare, who has, by the way, been supplemented to run in the Mare's Hurdle at Cheltenham. That's how good she is, and what an impossible task Lump Sum had that day. He's been raised a further £3, but he was well clear of the third that day, and is very, very classy and will be a tough nut to crack despite having a lot of weight. And Sam Thomas, speaking only today, has said he thinks he's going to be hard to beat because he thinks this is an easier race than the Newbury race a few weeks ago. King William Rufus, for Chris Gordon, will appreciate the drying ground. He's run well, despite finishing out of the money on his last 2 starts since a good win at Ascot in December, and is another who may not be far away. Now, my selection here in a race in which I'll be backing 2, one of which I'm recommending over at Out in Front. But my selection to you here is a big price. Hardy de Soil for Jamie Snowden and the capable conditional rider Will Featherstone. This horse is a previous course and distance winner, and he went on to finish 7th in this very race on heavy ground back in 2023. He's only been lightly campaigned this season, having had 2 runs, and he shaped well when second on his first start back at Carlisle, conceding £10 to the winner To Chase a Dream, who's trained by Paul Robson, a Northern trainer who's reopposing him here on £9 worse terms for 9 lengths. And that's before Hardy de Soil has £7 taken off his back by Will Featherstone. Now, Hardy de Soil was only beaten 3 lengths at Windsor last time in a really hot handicap hurdle, which you'll probably remember was won by Secret Squirrel. And that was the first time that Featherstone had ridden the horse, so he'll know him a little bit better this time. And I think Hardy de Soil should now be at his peak. And although much of his form is undoubtedly in testing ground, when you look back over his profile, he's also got plenty of decent form on good to soft and even good ground. And I'm optimistic that on the surface he should go well, especially with 28-1 being offered each way at the time of this recording for 5 places, mind you, with both William Hill and Bet365, 2 of the major firms. So 28-1 Hardy de Soil is my choice for you here at Sportsbet on Saturday in the Imperial Cup. And very soon after that has finished, they'll be going to post at Wolverhampton for the 2:45. It's the Lincoln Trial Handicap run on the Tappeta, which is standard, and there are 13 runners. Now, this race, of course, reminds us all that the start of the flat season on turf is only just around the corner. And once we've made our way through the Cheltenham Festival, it won't be long at all until they're off and running and jumping out of the stalls for the Lincoln Handicap itself at Doncaster. That signals the flat of the turf season proper. Well, 12 months ago in this race, Kingdom Come, trained by Clive Cox, won by a head off a £2 lower mark before going on to be only narrowly beaten in the valuable all-weather finals event at Newcastle 3 weeks later. That's the Easter fixture. Unlike last year, though, Kingdom Come arrives off a 3 months absence, so I think he'll do well to follow up, even though the bookies have certainly priced him up as a likely favourite. Second in last year's renewal was the Johnny Murtagh train Final Voyage, who's now £3 better off with his old rival Kingdom Come for just ahead. He arrives on the back of 2 recent second placings, so no fitness doubts for him. He's had a couple of spins at Dundalk, and he's got every chance of going one better. The only problem about Final Voyage is the draw. Drawn 13 of 13, that's on the wide outside, and you'll know over this trip the first bend comes up pretty quick, so his jockey's going to have to use plenty of gas, I think, to get into a position. Great Chieftain for Paul and Oliver Cole will have his supporters as he bids to make a winning return after 6 months off. He looked to be really progressive, landing 3 of his last 4 handicaps over a mile last summer on turf. Very interesting running. If he's ready to roll, the market should give us a few clues. Symbol of Light, who started off early days with Charlie Appleby, now with Julie Camacho, rolled back to form 7 weeks ago when he slammed fair opposition over a mile at Southall, but has been hoiked up £8 for that win. He's had his problems and been lightly raced over the last year, so now apparently back to full fitness. He could still be a danger despite his much bigger weight. Richard Hughes's Whip Cracker is a likable handicapper who might be one to keep an eye on this season, I think, both on the all-weather and turf. He did win on his only previous all-weather start, and he was second in listed company on his seasonal reappearance last year. So despite a 5-month absence, Whipcracker may not be far away. He really is one that's very respected. And of the others, for me, Zafandia, trained by Kieran Burke, is still unexposed on only its 5th career start. It made a winning handicap debut at Kempton 17 days ago, has been raised only £5, and I think may have plenty more to offer, despite being drawn in stall 1, which for this horse might be a negative, because he's not always the best away, which means that as they jump, he could find 12 horses potentially moving across right in front of him. And on this different track to Kempton, he could have quite a task, but I still think he's overpriced at 16 to 1. My selection, though, for the Lincoln Trial is Local Hero, trained by Richard Hannon and the mount of Joe Levy. This horse, Local Hero, is a useful handicapper who won in good style over the mile at Kempton in December before finishing 4th behind Zafandia back at Kempton over the same course and distance 2.5 weeks ago when he was sent off the 15 to 8 favourite. That day, however, things didn't go his way. He was denied a run 2 furlongs out just as the race was hotting up after the cutaway. He eventually got going in the clear, came home really well, but of course his winning chance had gone that day. He was second to a handicap good thing on his only ever run previously at Wolverhampton. And this 4-year-old is nicely drawn in stall 4. And the £3 claim of his rider, Joe Levy, adds to the feeling that this might be a good opportunity for him. And Local Hero is each way 8 to 1 for 4 place with plenty of major firms. So 8 to 1 each way. Local Hero is my choice at Wolverhampton in the 245. Now, just before I sign off, I want to just give you a heads up that I'll be offering 2 video bulletins next week. Monday, tea time, I'll have my thoughts both for the first and second days of the Cheltenham Festival. That's the Tuesday and Wednesday. And then on Wednesday evening, or tea time-ish, depending when you have your tea, or your dinner, depending on which part of the country you're from, I will have my thoughts on Thursday at Cheltenham and also Friday. So there's a lot to look forward to. I won't be posting a video bulletin this time next week because I think we'll all be worn out whether we've won or lost by this time next week. I wish you the very best of luck, though, with these selections on Saturday. Remember, if you want more selections for Saturday, and of course going throughout the Cheltenham Festival and then moving on to the start of the Flat and all the other great racing we're going to have coming up under both codes in April, then do click on the link in the description box and sign yourself up to join me and Out in Front, along with many others. But for now, from me, Paul Alster, I wish you the very best of luck. Bye-bye. Meet